Elsewhere, the global community is racing to slow down and eventually halt the spread of COVID-19. In Africa, governments and health authorities across the continent are not only striving to limit widespread infections, but also looking for possible ways of revamping their economies and getting things back to normalcy. Linda Alela reports.
World Health Organization warned nations to lift lockdowns gradually while still being on the lookout for COVID-19 and ready to restore restrictions if the virus jumps back. Many countries have already been pushed to the knees, forcing them to reopen their already dwindling economies. Push has come to shove in Kenya, for instance. President Uhuru Kenyatta on Saturday hinted at a possibility of reopening the economy.
Waanze kuambia Wakenya, waanze kuwaeleza Wakenya ya kwamba hatuwezi kuendelea na lockdown, hatuwezi kuendelea maisha na curfew.
The 53.7 billion shillings economic stimulus package was a clear indication that the president was focused on reopening the economy. Key sectors like education, health, infrastructure, agriculture, tourism and SMEs getting jumpstart packs to bounce back. But just what could have informed the president's decision? Were the measures taken in the country necessary in the first place? Amid major scares across the world, as late February 2020, Africa was still free from the deadly novel coronavirus, and this led to the spread of a misleading narrative that Africans, due to their genetic composition and skin color, can resist COVID-19. Today, though, Africa has reported approximately 100,000 COVID-19 cases so far, demystifying the narrative, though the numbers taking a slower rate of increase than in many European nations. The low numbers show a possibility of Africa being hit less severely, though it remains unclear. This then could mean that Africa shouldn't have aped the policies of Western countries in dealing with the virus. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair says that rates of testing coronavirus in Africa are too low to know how the disease is spreading or what its fatality rate will be. He proposes antibody tests for African nations, which he says are accurate and affordable enough to sample the population and, like an opinion poll, show what percentage of the population is likely to be affected.
You start to get some knowledge of, is it that the disease has spread but people are resilient and asymptomatic, which actually I think a lot of African cases are asymptomatic, or is it that actually it hasn't spread? And this would be very important information.
Blair says if implemented and is effective, the information will be handy for leaders to chart the way forward for their countries. Nations continue to research better ways of testing and a possible vaccine. Kemri Wellcome Trust in Kilifi has developed an immunological assay, a tool that detects virus footprints on patients to track the number of people who have been exposed to COVID-19. Senegal too is working on producing a cheap antibody test kit.
The antibody test, yes, very critical for seroprevalence at community level. However, as of now, our gold standard is the real-time PCR as recommended by WHO. But because Kemri Wellcome Trust is a research institution, it would be good for them to go ahead with the development of this antibody test.
So if you had an antigen test, which then you can take a blood sample from individuals and screen, you could tell pretty quickly how many individuals have seen SARS-CoV-2 infection. So that's what we are looking to do in terms of developing an antibody test to do a quick screen of the population rather than the current method.
There are a wide variety of tests with varying degrees of accuracy. Most African nations, though, are focused on PCR tests to identify people who might be spreading the disease and not those who have had it. Speculations have it that the disease may have spread and people have since become resilient and asymptomatic. For many leaders in Africa today, the virus is fast becoming the least of their worries. Reviving their damaged economies, aggravating hunger and slowing the fight against other deadly diseases is top of their agenda. Linda Alela, TV 47.